Thank you very much, Sabani. Shaista already today's morning asked me that I will introduce Angela. She's here with us. The reason was that our daughter was with the whole day in the stadium playing, and the mother need to be with them. So that's how the research life is for the girls also to handle the situations. So yes, our next speaker, Angela, is here with us. Thank you, Angela, for bringing you out from your bed to the session. But then just with a very quick one for everyone, Angela is working with the Code for Science and Society, who is the main funder for this project. And we have been also now, like Caroline and Injira both are here. We heard about Code for Science and Society from the iPad and Spider. They introduced us that, oh, there is like here also the group, the women group can go also here. So now you also know that why we brought you both here. So we wanted to have that. Yeah, but yes, Angela, you're very welcome in the session. And for us, this was like some sort of an end of one of our initiative where we are going to move to few other more in the next future. But then we were thinking that with all these time challenges, the difference of the time, but we were really thinking to connect with you and with the Code for Science and Society and to hear from you actually some sort of this overall framework, what motivated you to really fund this project or like these sort of project from different part of the world. Angela, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope it's okay. I do have a couple of slides prepared. Is it able to be visible?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, beautiful. Apologies, everyone. I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't schedule too much. I am based in the Bay Area in San Francisco, California. So it's actually not May 3rd, it's May 2nd. And so I had this in my calendar for tomorrow night. So thank you for the email, Shaista. And I said, oh my God, I'm about to go to bed. So it's great to be here. I'm glad I didn't miss. I'm sorry, Caroline, that I joined towards the end of your presentation, and I'm looking forward. I'm glad it's recorded. I will catch up on that later. I serve as the Director of Programs at Code for Science and Society, or CSNS for short. We're a nonprofit that runs various community building initiatives. And so one of those programs, which I'll speak a little bit more about, is the Event Fund. And through the Event Fund, we've been happy to support the Girls in Asia data training. So I'm really excited to be here with you all. Sorry, I'm a little bleary-eyed and tired, but I hope that I will keep the energy going. Let's see if I can get these to move forward. So I know that I will try and keep it brief. But I was asked to speak a little bit about CSNS and the Event Fund. So I just want to communicate a little bit about the kinds of communities we support, our approach to the programs, some details about the Event Fund, which continues and which will have another round very soon. And then I'll close with kind of how this work feeds into our bigger vision. So that's me, a little more alert than I am maybe right now. And just a little bit, I want to explain some of the experiences that have shaped how I think about data, science, and technology. Before I joined CSNS in 2021, I actually was finishing up a PhD in anthropology. So I come from a bit of a different background where I actually studied data cultures and study the production of research data, in particular in Nairobi, Kenya. And so my research really looked and highlighted at the ways that data and research and researchers are often very heavily siloed in their own circles. And too often this leads to science produced in ways that are experienced as extractive to local communities with no real benefit to them. Science can often feel like it's separated from the actual everyday problems that people face. And so my research really underlined the importance of building new connections across disciplines and contexts, and really about thinking and investing in the social relationships that are built around and through technical systems. And also before the PhD, I lived and worked in Nairobi for 5 years, where I helped co-found the research department of one of the first co-working tech spaces called the iHub. And so that's actually how I know Caroline, who was one of our first supporters of the iHub. Thank you so much, Caroline. It's great to see you again. So today it's exciting that I get to work with another cross-disciplinary team. So some pictured here that have decades of experience in open communities, whether it's scientists, team leads, facilitators, educators, and researchers. And so our team engages with technologists and scientists to support the building of strong communities in open source, science, and public interest tech. We say that we don't build the technology ourselves, but we support the people who do. So how do we do that? Not necessarily in this order, but we look to really provide the knowledge, the capital, and the capacity that we think is really necessary to build and support sustainable open scientific projects. So this is just a quick snapshot from our annual report last year. Our organization was founded in 2016, and now today supports a wide range of projects, working in open source software, data science, and a wide range of different disciplines, I would say. So for example, we offer our digital infrastructure incubator. I heard Caroline mentioning incubator. So we use a similar kind of model, I suspect, which is a 6-month cohort. And we really focus on helping individuals to work through their projects, and especially thinking about, again, the social infrastructure that's necessary often to build the technical projects. And then we have our event fund, which uses participatory grant making to really invest in emerging leaders and also their communities. And finally, through our fiscal sponsorship program, we actually create shared infrastructure of operations, finance, and administration that these projects can leverage to focus on their own programmatic work. All of this work centers on the possibilities of data, science, and tech, but again, we really build our own infrastructure to support the people and to build power in communities. I think too often in this technical work, people forget that it's actually people who do the technology building, and that's what we actually need to invest in. So before I talk about the event fund, I just wanted to do one more slide on our approach, because I think it's really important to show how we are kind of iteratively learning and doing. And so again, in this diagram, you can see that to support the healthy teams as they grow, we have kind of 3 different areas of work. First, in all of our programs, we hold intentional space. We believe in paying scientists and technologists for their time as they explore what kind of sustainable futures for their work might look like. And so we have fellowship programs, we have an incubator, community calls, there's a wide range of how we do it. But all of them are really means in order to hold space for people to think and imagine together. And we hope that through projects like this, you are also holding space to think and imagine together. Based on this, we build and curate open resources. These might be curricula, bibliographies, reports, written, recorded materials. We care about sharing these openly and having these accessible. And then finally, sharing these out in order to shift practice at kind of a more ecosystem level. So really trying to influence narratives and hosting public-facing event series and engaging different stakeholders. And so the cycle continues, right? Based on what we learned from that public engagement, then again, figuring out how we want to hold more intentional space. So just quickly, a little bit more detail on event funds, which was launched in 2020, thanks to support from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and then extended support from the Wellcome Trust and Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. We've been able to disperse about $500,000 over the last 3 years in small grants. So these are grants of up to $20,000 to 3 cohorts. And so these 3 cohorts actually represent 37 different teams who cover 27 countries across 6 continents. So the global spread is quite exciting to see. And the latest cohort includes 13 teams. And again, these teams are working on data science very broadly, so including environmental science, infectious disease, public health, and much of it includes a mentoring and kind of training aspect, but even how that's delivered is different. Some groups actually did an in-person in this last cohort. Other groups run a kind of weekly training session over 16 weeks, for example. So the mechanisms are different, and they are very attuned to kind of what their community needs. I think I'm really proud of the event fund, both because of this wide array of projects, but also I think a really unique component is that it's community led. So that's to say that we've really invested in the governance of the funds. It's not just, oh, who does Angela think is good and those people get funded, but no, it's actually a open call for the selection and advisory committees. And these are composed of the data scientists and data science leaders themselves. In fact, we can see the kind of growth in leadership over the years because many of our committee members began as event fund grantees, then they moved onto our selection committee and helped select the grantees, and now are on our advisory committee, which helps to steer the overall direction of the fund. So it's really exciting to see a small way that we can begin to shift power towards the actual communities themselves to help them select the projects that they think the field needs. And so I think there's a lot of exciting potential with this concept of kind of pooled participatory grant making. And this is something that we're excited to kind of keep growing. So with that, I think I will wrap it up just to say you can probably tell we care a lot at CSNS about forging new connections between people, communities, geographies, disciplines. And I think that's more than just something nice to say. We really see this as establishing new mechanisms to build and transfer power to historically marginalized communities in science and tech that are often not represented still today. So we really are trying to design programs to meet people where they are and to shift away from more extractive, oppressive scientific practices that I mentioned, were part of my own studies and my own background towards better alternatives. So if any of this resonates with you, I hope, you will follow us on our website. Keep an eye out. We will be having an open call for the next cohort for the event fund in probably September, October. And we really think that this is important work to continue to support community growth. So thank you for having me and the great work that you all are doing.
Thank you, Angela. It was a great talk, and yes, means whatever at the website available, but we still need someone who can summarize and pitch the things there. So yeah, I think we have a very relevant question here from Anfal. And when I was looking at the question, I was thinking that maybe our team is not yet at this stage to answer that. The question is that, and I was thinking, Angela, you will be in a better position to answer that question because you have this third or fourth cohort. So it means that there is already 3, 4, and the question here is about the project's long-term impacts, that how it influenced the systematic structures or the biasness in the structure, and how it can actually help to overcome some of those challenges. So coming back to you, Angela, specifically with that one question, do you have anything to share with us where you can share some of the experiences of the other cohorts, which was the first or the second cohort?
Yes, I think, impact assessment is a fun and sometimes very tricky business. I think that sometimes there are many impacts that can just not be measured or would be very difficult to track, secondary, tertiary impacts from an event. It's very challenging. One of the ways that we track it with Event Fund is that we have event participants fill out a quick survey at the end, which the projects administer. And then we also ask grantees to share their experiences. But this doesn't account for how an event or how a training impacts someone's longer term career, how it impacts, a longer trajectory. So I would say it's an incomplete picture at best. But one of the exciting anecdotal stories that we hear really point to some systemic change that we've been able to see even in the last 3 years. So for example, one of the grantee teams talked about how the event fund grants themselves, which are very unrestricted. I think this is quite uncommon in many development spaces where you have to adhere to exactly specific things that you said you would. This is very open-ended funding where we're like, what is it that you want to do? What do you need? Do you need childcare for the participants? Sure. Like, let's try and get that going. Do you need to pay your volunteers? Like, yes, please pay your volunteers. I think this is often not the case with much funding. And by giving this unrestricted money, in fact, so in this case, it was a public university, the grantee actually pushed the university to think carefully about its existing policies and how they might need to change them to allow previously, I would say, marginalized, undocumented students in the university who could not receive money from the university because of their kind of status. They were actually pushed to reconsider that policy because of event fund grants and the unrestricted nature. So it's a long-winded way of saying that I think that sometimes letting the community and those who are working on the projects themselves actually have the power to decide where the money needs to be spent, instead of having a very paternalistic top-down way of saying, oh no, that's not the right way. Sometimes that's the most impactful thing, and you can actually see big change. And I think that's the direction we need to go closer to. So I hope that answers some of the questions.
Yes, thank you, Angela. And we'll not keep you for long anymore, but really thanks for your coming over and having this quick talk with us. We look forward to be engaged in the future too. We will not ask for you to stay for a long because of the time difference.
No.
But what we are going to do, we are recording the session, so it means the recording of the presentations will be available later on also, as well as in the reports also. Some of the finding in those things will reflect on where actually then you can have a look on later on. Thank you
so
once
much.
again.
Thank you all. I will follow the recording. Good night. Take care.